first lesson is going to be on pronouns in Arabic. For this lesson, you would already need to know some Arabic, particularly the alphabet. And but this is basically beginner level stuff. So if you already know the alphabet, you're not going to struggle with this. So let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. This is my first time using Google Slides, so I apologize if it's messy. But so this is one part of the lesson on pronouns. So this will be split up into 3 different lessons. So in this lesson, we are going to basically explore first person Arabic pronouns. So I, we, us, me, but in Arabic. And the reason why I decided to split it up into 3 lessons instead of just doing it all in one is because Arabic pronouns are a bit more complex. There are some pronouns that are words on their own, like in English, and some that are prefixes or suffixes. So let's start. So there are 3 different groups of pronouns, and they're just like English. So there's the first person, which is al-mutakallim, and hold on. Okay. Anyway, back to what I was saying. There are 3 different types of pronouns. There's first person, al-mutakallim, which the word for first person in Arabic comes from the word for speaker, right? Like the person that is speaking, right? So when you say I am, you're talking about yourself, and you're the speaker, you're the one that is talking. So that's where the word comes from. And first person pronouns are like I, we, me, us, right? So it's pretty obvious. So then we have the second person pronouns, which is al-mukhatab, right? And the word for it in Arabic comes from, like the name for it means like the one that you are talking to, the person that you're addressing, right? So you use second person pronouns to address somebody, you. And then third person, like he, she, they, it, except we don't have an it in Arabic. This is the more complex category because you get many more pronouns in third person category. So yeah. And on top of Arabic having unlike in English where there's singular and plural, in Arabic there's singular, dual, and plural. So there's one to address just one person, and then there's to address 2 people, and then there's to address 3 or more. So it can include a lot of memorization. So you would probably need to memorize a lot of different pronouns, right? And third person is where it gets really complicated, because there's, you know, singular he, singular she, and then there's dual he, dual she, and then there's they, which is three or more, but then there's feminine they and masculine they, right? So there's just a lot of different categories in this, and it's not difficult, in my opinion. It just includes a lot of memorization, right? In the beginning stage of language learning, you have a lot of memorization. Yeah, and then there's attached pronouns, right? So this is what I talked about when I first started, which is some of them are suffixes, which is just like at the end of a word, and then some are prefixes, which is at the beginning of a word. And there's a reason for this. There's a rule. In Arabic, usually, nothing exists for no reason in Arabic. All of it has a rule that makes sense. And for some people, they can be pretty difficult because because it's a language with 12 million words and so many different dialects that it can include a lot of memorization, which is the hardest part of Arabic. But yeah, there's attached, detached, and implied pronouns. Implied basically means that, it can be a word that looks like another word, but it has a pronoun. Like, for example, for example, if I were to write in Arabic, akala, right? Just imagine that there are, the harakat on there, because I can't do them on the keyboard. But anyway, akala. That can mean two things. That can mean to eat. That can mean to eat. And it can also mean he ate. It can mean two different things, right? Because the singular masculine version of a word tends to be the base form of the word. So akala, it can be used to say to eat in the most basic form, or it can be used to say he ate. So anyway, yes, so there was also some other thing that I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, okay. So in this lesson, we're just going to talk about the first person pronouns. So these are the pronouns in Arabic that when learning phrases, you're probably most familiar with. So ana just means I, and nahnu means we. This is the category of pronouns in Arabic that has the least amount of separated pronouns. There's only two, I and we. So, yeah. And then you have pronouns that are attached to a word. Usually, if the pronoun is the subject in the sentence, the attached pronoun will be a prefix, right? So it will be at the beginning of the word, right? And for Anna, it's a bit different. But yeah. So it really depends. It changes a lot, but there's rules for it that I'll get more into later on. But yeah. So for some pronouns, there is a suffix or a prefix that stays the same all throughout in any form, whether it is attached to a verb or anything, right? So a lot like it's like this one. Can you see my mouse? Hello? Can you see my mouse?
Yes.
Okay. So like this word, أكلنا, أكلنا, right? And the reason why I can write this word without the separated pronoun, which is نحن, is because with these attached pronouns, right, if you have an attached pronoun, which is 100% of the time, then you don't need a detached pronoun. It becomes optional. So I could say نحن أكلنا or أكلنا, right? Either one works because what the verb ends with or starts with sometimes, or both, mostly both, what it starts with and ends with, basically gives you the pronoun. Because نحن, the attached pronoun version of نحن, is just for نحن. So na is just for we, right? You don't use na for any other pronoun. It is only for نحن. It's only used when you are talking from the first person perspective, the plural first person perspective, point of view, right? And that's what gives it its meaning. That's what makes it possible to completely exclude the separated pronoun, the detached pronoun, and that's what makes it possible to only use the verb and then the attached pronoun, right? Because this is a complete word. You don't need a pronoun, unlike in English where you can't just say are, right? Like you have to say we are, they are, you are, because in English the form of the verb to be, are, is used for multiple different pronouns, right? But in Arabic, it's not the same, right? Each one has their own form of the word, or not necessarily form of the word, but attached pronoun that is attached to the verb. So you can just exclude the detached pronoun. Kind of like in Italian, I've brought up this example before, but in Italian, you don't need to always include the pronoun, right? There's a form of each verb that is specific to each pronoun, right? And they usually, from verb to verb, they look very similar, right? They end in the same way and they just look the same. But yeah, and they're different from from pronoun to pronoun, sorry. And that's what makes it possible to only use the verb, right? But with أنا, I, it gets more complicated. So I wanted to specifically make an entire slide just for I, or أنا. For the attached pronoun of I, which is the singular first person point of view verb, there are many attached pronouns, right? So it differs from like the possessive aspect. So if you were to say my name, you would add a ya at the end. So ism means name, and ismi means my name, right? As you can see here, alif, sin, mim, right? Which is ism. And then this ya at the end here basically shows you that this is my name. But if you were talking about something that you did in the past, right? So you ate an apple yesterday, right? So I ate. You would add a ta at the end. A ta with a dhamma, right? Because you also add a ta for the feminine second person attached pronoun, but it's different. So if this was the feminine second person point of view pronoun, it would be akalti, but this is akaltu. And this is why, harakat are very important when you're first learning, because there tends to be these little differences from, letter to letter or word to word. So, akaltu. You don't need to add the ana because the attached pronoun does the work of telling you what pronoun it is. On the other hand, if you wanted to, for adding an attached pronoun to a present tense verb, you add a letter to the beginning of the word. And just keep in mind that this is a general rule, right? So for possessive attached pronouns, you add them at the end of a word. And for past tense, you add them at the end of the word and the beginning of the word. And then for present tense, you add them at the beginning. Hold on. Okay, so this is a general rule. For possessive in order to, say that you own something or you have something, you add the attached possessive pronoun at the end. So kind of like ismi, right? So you don't add anything at the beginning of the word, you add it at the end of the word. And it is the same for the past tense of a verb. For example, like the example mentioned here, akaltu. I added a ta at the end of the word, right? So you add it at the end of the word rather than at the beginning or anything, right? And then for the present tense, right? So you're doing the action right now. You add a specific letter depending on what what pronoun at the beginning of the word. Like the example here, amud, which means I stretch out. Amud, right? So the basic form of this word would be madda, right? So just this meme and this dal, and then madda, right? But in the present tense, if you're trying to say that, I'm stretching out, not to stretch, you add an alif at the beginning. So amuddu. Yeah. And yeah, so there's a lot of variation on this, and for this topic it includes a lot of memorization. So you just kind of have to remember that for present tense, you add the attached pronoun at the beginning of the word, and then for the past tense verb, you add the attached pronoun at the end of the word, and then for possessive, you also add it at the end of the word. And in Arabic, there are only 3 tenses. Technically 2. So there's the past tense, and then there's the present tense, and then there's amr, which means to, when you're demanding that somebody does something, right? And with demanding that somebody does something, you tend to take away letters, or keep it as the basic form, just change the vowels. So yeah, this is all that I have left in the PowerPoint, because there was a mix up with the PowerPoint, and it got messed up somehow, and it just deleted my last couple of slides that I had. So this is all I have in the PowerPoint. So now you can ask your questions if you have any. Can you hear me? Hello, do you have any questions? None of you have questions? You guys have no questions?
I do actually. I do. Wait.
Okay.
In the lesson, you use this website for the pronunciations of the alphabet letters.
Mm-hmm.
Can I get that website so I can use it to revise?
I sent it in the Google Classroom a while
Oh,
ago, right
thank you.
after the lesson.
All right, that's what I need to ask. All right, goodbye.
Bye. So, y'all,
I have a
okay.
oh okay. I have a question. So the pronoun Anna is like I.
Mm-hmm. And this pronoun in Arabic, ana, is gender neutral and it is the singular form. So ana could mean, like it has no gender. So it's less complicated than a bunch of other Arabic pronouns. Yeah.
And as you said, we can sometimes not use it, like directly say an action or a verb without saying the pronoun.
Well, what I said was there's the detached pronoun, which is ana, and then there's the attached pronoun, which you attach at the end or the beginning of a word, right? And
Oh, okay.
okay, so since in Arabic, in order to like, there always has to be the attached pronoun, but the detached pronoun is optional. So you don't always have to add ana, but you always have to add like the ya at the end of ismi, right? Because you have to. The attached pronoun is not optional, but the detached pronoun is optional. So I could say ana ismi ala, or I could say ismi ala. I could say either one, but I can't say ana ism ala. I have to add the e or ya at the end.
Okay. Yes, when you said that is similar in Italian, that helped me to understand because my native language is Spanish and we do the same.
Yeah.
So thank you for explaining, Jazzy.
You're welcome. Yeah, so for example, like, it will be noi siamo, voi siete, damn, I haven't practiced Italian in a while. But, yeah, so it's io sono, tu, I can't remember two, but yeah.
Italiano?
Excuse me?
Parli italiano? Do you speak Italian?
Very, 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 very tiny amount. Very tiny.
Same.
I tried learning it for 3 months, which is actually quite a bit of time.
On Duolingo?
Yes, I had a 63-day streak. Big flex.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, see, well, I got Duolingo Plus.
It's very good. I like it.
And what do you think about Arabic in Duolingo Plus? I got it for free. Like, it's cracked.
I think that Duolingo Arabic is not very good because it's either some of the pronunciations of the words are either have a accent or they're just incorrect, right?
Okay.
But I would recommend Duolingo for the if you can get Duolingo on your phone. There is a page on Duolingo Arabic where you can listen to the pronunciation of each letter. So you can listen to the pronunciation of each letter, and it's just a very great way to practice on top of the website that I have provided in the Google Classroom, right? So, yeah.
Thanks.
Who is here speak Arabic?
Me, I'm the teacher.
What?
I'm the teacher. This is an Arabic lesson.
Really, I'm from Egypt. I speak Arabic.
Good.
And I learn English and Italiano, sometimes French.
Nice.
But my mother language is Arabic.
My mother tongue is Arabic too.
Where are you from?
I'm from Yemen, born and raised in the UAE.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. I'll be having a lesson next week where I will revise so we will revise the what we covered today, and then we will get into second person perspective or point of view pronouns. But now